Welcome back to the White Gray Black Weekly Manga Podcast. My name is Bruce, the producer of the White Gray Black YouTube channel. With me again this week is Gautam.
Hello, hello.
Freshly beaten to a pulp by some sidewalk.
True.
Yeah, his face isn't on screen, but he just showed me, and he looks assaulted, is how Gautam looks.
I do look beat the fuck up.
Quite bad. This is a book club for manga. It's a manga book club, and by listening, you're a member. Congrats. This week, it is a golden week in Japan, so publishers and mangaka are mostly on break. We thought we would take a bit of time to give you our top 5 suggestions of what you should start reading this year and catch up on. We're also going to touch on the ending of Aharen-san. That's chapter 167, which was wonderful, and hit on DanDaDan chapter 104, because DanDaDan has been on a roll. Couple of pieces of news real quick. We mentioned last week that the Hinamatsuri creator Masao Otake is starting a new assassin comedy manga. That series is titled J, and then there's a double arrow, and then the letter M. So I don't know how that's going to be read or written. My guess is that's...
Okay, you know what? I think freaks like you, who don't say the X in Hunter x Hunter, will just say JM. But I
was literally about to say probably I will just call it JM, but let me see if I get this on screen.
I will be calling it J arrow in both directions M.
Like J double arrow M. Yeah, I mean I don't know. Again, usually if it's just like a symbol, you don't read it. I don't know. This is going to be called like J swap M or something like that. Who knows? Anyways, that. M.
I think that would be a good one.
Well, that sounds like a boy band song or something, but...
It kind of does sound like Boys to Men, right? Yeah.
J to M, Boys to Men. Yeah, that's exactly where my head was. That is starting in a little under a week for us. That'll be next Monday. So if you're listening to this podcast, look out on Monday or Tuesday for that. My guess is a fan translator will grab that up. If it doesn't hit... I have not heard about an official English translation yet, so we'll wait patiently on that. The premise of this, which we do get, is that a fearsome professional hitman switches bodies with a lonely little girl.
This manga just dropped in Weekly Shonen Jump 2 weeks ago.
All very close. Lots of assassin. Is it John Wick? What's causing this? There's like...
I don't know.
Have assassins always... I mean, I feel like assassins are always one of those, like, yeah, there's always like a couple of manga about assassins. There have been a lot in the past year, I would say. 2 or 3 years. Especially big ones. We got Sakamoto Days.
Brand of it, though. Like, why the assassins becoming children?
I don't know. It is a quick one, too, on the Weekly Shonen Jump version, which is called Blue... something Blue. No. I don't remember because it's forgettable and not very good, so...
There are just too many blue manga.
There's also way too many blue manga. Yeah, we could literally talk for 3 or 4 hours just on manga with the word blue or aoi in it, right? Which is Japanese for blue.
Actually true, yeah.
Yeah.
Another one, kinda tangentially, is Kindergarten Wars, which I actually haven't seen in a bit, but...
You haven't, because an official English got announced for that, but they have not started it yet, is what I understand. Because I follow the author on Twitter. I see a lot of announcements about it. He's dropping new chapters every week, I think, or maybe every 2 weeks. But yeah, we're not seeing it. I believe because an official translation was announced, but has not started yet. I don't know. I hope that's a Manga Plus series in Japan. I hope that just comes to...
Manga Plus, right? Yeah.
Yeah, just a Manga Plus over in the West.
It's the same editor, like that editor guy on Twitter who...
Shihei Lin. Yes, this author was found by the same guy who found Fujimoto, who does Chainsaw Man, and DanDaDan, and who else did he find?
He has like he has a Twitter presence and also like
just
a library of popular manga authors under him. So
yes, he also do Dry Cam. Is that the new one that's coming out? I don't remember. Chainsaw Man. Oh, Blue Exorcist, Planning Assistant, Baby Blooper, Planning Assistants, Editing, Kimono Jihen. This is what I have heard. What is this one? Alternate title. Okay, well, that's
he has a lot of popular stuff either way. That's
yeah.
cool.
I mean, he had a wild popular two-year stint where it was Chainsaw Man got really big with the ending. Spy Family came out. He had a pretty big, what was that, like 2020, I guess? 2019, 2020, 2021? Where it was kind of hit after hit. And then, yes, he is also, I believe, responsible for finding DanDaDan. I don't believe he's the acting editor on that, but the author of DanDaDan was also an assistant to Fujimoto, right? To Fujimoto and Okubo in the past, I believe. I believe he worked on Fire Force for a bit. I'm thinking of not Gokoraku guy. What's the garbage manga? That's the guy who worked for Okubo. The DanDaDan guy worked for Fujimoto. You're right. Yeah. So.
Well, as strange as it is that we're seeing so many assassin manga, I have a lot more faith in the creator of Hinamatsuri to make this entertaining and fun. So I think that sounds hype.
It's cool. Yeah, I mean, it's cool for me, who has been into anime for, God, how old am I now? 12 or 13 years, I guess I would say. And only really into manga the past kind of like four, maybe 5 years, you could say. Sort of seeing a lot of these authors with their, like, not second try, like their new series, right? Like, I watched the Hinamatsuri anime, I don't know, 6 years ago, whenever it came out. It was hilarious, and I loved it, and wasn't really in the position to go and read manga. Just wasn't in a place in my life that I was reading enough manga to know that I can just go get more of this, because more of it exists. But now it's like, I love Hinamatsuri. It was super funny. It was like it's maybe top 3, definitely top 5, maybe funniest anime behind like, what's the KyoAni one that we both like?
Nishijo.
Nishijo is the funniest anime I've ever seen, I think, by far.
It is like top 5.
Everything else is below that, but yeah, I mean, but Hinamatsuri like might be second or third. I'd have to think about. I haven't thought about comedy manga all that much.
Excellent like adaptation as well.
Yes, the first episode, what's the like, Kono wa cell phone ga was like, that was so funny. I don't know if you remember that, but
I do. My
opening
friend has
scene
it as his ringtone, and it's obnoxious.
Yeah,
but it was funny.
Super good. Anyways, so yeah, excited about the Hinamatsuri author with that new series, JM.
Hey, so before we go into our next segment here, do I sound more nasally this time?
A little, I would assume, since you're hurt. Maybe
I broke my nose, and I feel like more nasally than normal. So sorry.
A little bit.
That,
it's not super recognizable.
Yeah. Okay. Good.
It's okay. Our 3 monthly listeners. No, there's 2 monthly listeners because one of those people is me. They'll notice.
Hell yeah.
But hey, if you're here from the future, listening back to some old episodes, yeah, Gautam got hurt, so that's why he sounds a little different.
Yeah. Sorry about the schnoz.
Speaking of getting hurt, Oshinoko is killing it in the manga sales numbers. Let me see if I can just grab this picture from my notes right here and bring it over. Whatever, screen press. So here we go. Zoom in? No, not going to zoom in. Whatever. You can see what's going on here. This is the rank position on the sales chart that the Oshinoko volume occupies. Now, they're all over the place, of course. I think some of these are probably more or less available. My guess is volume 1 is probably going to reprint. We're also 3 or 4 weeks out, so maybe people are just buying the later ones. But yeah, as you can, this is every single volume of Oshinoko almost in the top 20. There's 21 ranks here. At number 7 is Oshinoko volume 7. Number 8 is Oshinoko number 5. It goes on and on. They're kind of all over the place, but this is literally volumes 1 through 11 occupying spaces 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12, 14, 15, 17, 18, and 21 on the top sales chart in Japan for manga. So that is, I believe, every active volume of Oshinoko selling, like I said, almost in the top 20. So that's incredible. Oshinoko is a smash hit.
That is nuts. Well done to Aka and Mango.
Well, into the Doba,
anime stuff, yeah.
Koba Dogo Koba. I can't remember the name of that anime studio. But yeah, they are killing it from the clips that I've seen. I've not gotten around to watching it. I probably will. Maybe. We'll see. Reading it is also great, so I'm not...
I find the issue of I find it hard to watch anime nowadays just because it's like I've already read it.
Exactly.
What
Yeah.
goes on in my mind. Even though it's like a new medium and whatnot, it's just something I have to get over.
Yes, and it's also one of those things that's like, okay, I you've read it, you've consumed the story, and for stuff like Oshinoko, I mean, Mango is a great artist, and she. I don't. The anime doesn't.
Right?
The only thing the anime is really bringing is the music, and I don't know if you've heard the OP for Oshinoko. The OP slaps. It's awesome. You should go watch it. It has like a full length music video. You know, not like a full music video, but like an anime music video. But yeah, the OP for Oshinoko is great. So yeah,
having not seen the show, I would also bet it would do a good job at adding like kind of the idol moments. You know,
that's what I would assume. Yeah.
Yeah. So I got to check it out because I'm talking on my ass either way.
I'm at least going to check out the first episode, which is 90 minutes, because I know that was the one that like everyone was talking about because it's the whole kind of it's the first 4 or 5 chapters up to kind of the big twist. But this isn't on our discussion notes, but Aka Akasaka has a new series that premiered this week called, and I'm going to remember, it's called Renai Daiko, Love Agency. You read this, right?
Yeah, I did read it. It was
I also read
it was good. I liked it.
Yeah, I thought it was good. It's definitely an interesting premise. If anyone listening or you are familiar, oh gosh, what is the name of that play? There's a play that I really like that had Kevin Kline in it.
I haven't heard the name Kevin Kline in a while.
Here's one of my favorite. Cyrano de Bergerac. Does that ring any bells to you?
No.
Okay,
I was actually thinking of Calvin Klein. I don't know who this is. Actually.
Kevin, you recognize Kevin Kline? Maybe he's like a '90s, more of an '80s '90s actor. Anyways, the relation here is there's a play version, recorded version of Cyrano de Bergerac where Kevin Kline is the title character. The plot of Cyrano de Bergerac is essentially I don't remember if he's like stupid or just like unpoetic, but like a prince is trying to woo a girl and he kind of recruits or hires Cyrano de Bergerac to essentially like feed him lines while they're talking because Cyrano's like a poet, but he's ugly.
I see. Okay.
So the premise here of Aka's new series is similar to this. Their thing is that there's this service that you can hire that will kind of like help you date, and they give you the first chapter follows the girl, I believe, and she hires someone who's on the other side of her little microphone headset and feeds her lines to talk to this guy who she's interested in. And so it's very kind of similar premise. And then at the very end of the chapter, you get a little twist that the guy was also using the same service with another guy on the other end. So kind of 4 main characters. We're going to figure out. My guess is Aka plays with which character is paired with which handler, or which kind of in person is paired with the handler. I don't think. My guess is this is not just going to be. The 2 handlers end up together romance and the 2 live action, real quote unquote people end up together. But this is exciting because the dynamic here I think is interesting, especially in kind of an internet world.
It is interesting, and it is interesting that they would pay $10,000. A lot of money.
Was it 10,000? I thought it was 10,000 yen, which is like $100.
Was it 10,000 yen? Maybe I just misread it.
I think it was 10,000 yen, or maybe it was 100,000 yen, which is like $1,000 or something. But I don't remember the price.
If it's 10,000 yen, that's super reasonable then. But
more reasonable, yeah.
I read it in the morning, and I read it as $10,000. I'm like, holy shit, these kids have access to funds.
Yeah. Although the yen is a lot weaker than it used to be, so that's actually 10,000 yen a year or 2 ago would have been $100, but now it's actually only like 70 or $80. Yeah. So strong dollar. Woo, go America. But yeah, that's really interesting. I'm curious because if you advice for listeners or watchers, see if you can track down Kevin Kline's Cyrano de Bergerac. It's a really interesting story. I believe it's based on a stage play originally. French?
So, speaking from an outsider to what you just said, that name you mentioned is incomprehensible in my brain, and I cannot spell it.
Okay.
How do you spell Cyrano?
So wait.
Cyrano?
So Cyrano, and then it's DE because I believe this takes place in French, and then Bergerac is Bergerac. And this is a play, written in 1897 by Edmund Rostand. Written in verse, rhyming couplets. Yeah, so it's an old play. Paris, 1640.
Got it. And
guys fall in love with a girl, but he thinks
there's a movie based on this where Dinklage plays Cyrano, and that makes sense. That makes sense, but he's hot, right? Like he has dwarfism, but he's very hot. So
and I mean Kevin Kline is also like an exceptionally attractive actor person. So I mean Cyrano de Bergerac, I think his thing is he's got like a big nose is his like ugly feature. Because I think that, or maybe he wears a big nose for some reason. It has been 10 years probably since I've actually seen the movie. I know that I liked it, and I like Kevin Kline a lot as an actor.
It sounds interesting.
Yeah, he's in one of my favorite movies, A Fish Called Wanda, if you've ever seen that.
I have not.
Okay, you got to watch that movie. That's one of the funniest movies ever made. Yeah, A Fish Called Wanda.
Really? Okay,
it's so good. He did a series of movies with John Cleese and who's the actress? I'm losing it. I'm just gonna Google it. It's the girl who wants to play what's her name in One Piece? Jamie Lee Curtis, who wants to play
Jamie Lee Curtis. Yeah,
yes,
she's great.
Yes, that movie is Jamie Lee Curtis, John Cleese, Michael Palin. John Cleese and Michael Palin, both from Monty Python fame, and Kevin Kline. Those are sort of the four actors. And it is a comedy of errors type movie where everyone is stupid but smart in a single thing, and they all are just stupid and mess up. And
I like that show.
It's such a funny movie. It is maybe my number 2 favorite comedy movie after Hot Fuzz. It's up there.
Really?
It's definitely top.
It is Hot Fuzz tier. Holy shit! Okay,
I think it's Hot Fuzz tier. It is the '90s Hot Fuzz, I would say.
That's dope.
Yeah,
well,
it's this middle ground between old Monty Python and Hot Fuzz, and it's like a transition period. But it's such a funny movie.
So that concludes our weekly French movie discussion segment.
Yes.
I hope you've been enjoying these. We do it every week. We love it.
Yep. On to our next discussion of mid-century Italian plays. No, we'll stick to manga since we're a little bit more up to date on that. Let's talk about DanDaDan.
Let's do it.
This is chapter 104. This is just Vamola Part 4.
Before we start this one, can you give us a recap on how we got to this?
I was going to say, let's set up where we are, because the past 3 chapters and this chapter have all been a flashback of Vamola, who is our resident sort of alien girl, who came crashing to Earth, or maybe not crashing to Earth. She appeared on Earth in a big kaiju type suit, big Godzilla looking mech. Tried to take the golden ball, but it turned out was not the MC's ball, maybe? Or was it the MC's ball? No, I don't remember.
I think it was like an illusion of a golden ball, and she was invisible. I think they were trying to get it. Maybe.
Yes, and it turned out to be a different ball. The ball was her power source, not the kid's testicles. So if you haven't read DanDaDan, you're going to be very lost. But yes, the main character's testicles are actually the single through line of the entire story. Are this man's genitalia. But essentially, the last couple chapters have been a flashback to Vamola on her home planet, I think, or her planet. Yeah, I believe this is her home planet of origin.
Sumerian, I think.
Yes, yeah, they call it like Old Sumeria or something, which is like weird because it's a real place, but also interesting because, as you can see on this page here, there is a Egyptian pyramid tethered above a Mexican Aztec pyramid. So, but they are on a foreign planet as far as we know. But that's all. That ties back because DanDaDan has mentioned pyramids being magical or alien or something in the past, and they have shown up. They showed up, I think, right before we went to this flashback. But yeah, the cool thing about this flashback is the only surviving. It starts with Vamola's parents. Group of people, I guess you would say, getting wiped out by the sort of bad aliens that we're fighting in present day. And she's saved by this sort of elite marine squad of like grannies, which is like so classic DanDaDan fun. It's wonderful. And these characters are great too. I'm in love with all of them, and they're pretty much all, I think, probably destined to die by the next chapter or two. So, yeah, but that kind of leads us to this chapter, which is where they have essentially kind of pledged to go out in a blaze of glory because they're going to get found or they're not going to make it anyway. So their big thing is they're going to try to steal a ship, which I think is the Egyptian pyramid, right? Is what they decided the ship was. So they're sort of making their assault here. And it's cool because these grannies are like, I'm trying to think. I think the best equivalency I can make is like, imagine Gears of War, but instead of like thick-necked bros, it's grandmas in the suits. Like that's essentially what these ladies are.
And they look like, for audio listeners, they look like, if you've read DanDaDan, like the granny, Momo's granny, actually she looks like a hot young lady. These ladies look like actual grandmas.
They're
right?
like, oh yeah, they're like old and thick and like
old, overweight, but they're like badass. And with their masks on, they all look like Master Chiefs, you know?
Yeah, they look sort of like Master Chief, Halo, ODST, Gears of War kind of type characters. So,
sick.
So they go, and the interesting thing here is that, again, all the characters, Vamola and her grannies, are all female. The females are fighters on this planet, which is just like, I don't even think it's addressed, really. No one's like, why are the It's just kind of like stated as fact, which is cool. But they find men at this compound, and they're like, we have to try to free them. And the men are kind of all like chained up and enslaved. And they try, and one of the men, because dudes are stupid, is just like, I'm just going to run. Even though they're trying to sneak away. Gets them caught.
Too.
Yeah, I mean, I didn't grab all of those pictures because you never know what YouTube will let you show, but the guys are kind of, I mean, they're like enslaved essentially, and so they cause disruption. All of these bad aliens who are, a lot of them are ones that we're fighting in present day on Earth. At least a few of them are, I'm pretty sure it's the exact same aliens, which I think it's implied they might be suits or something like that, like power suits. I think most of them are. Because
in the chapter before that, they fed the Sumerians to this like big pregnant
thing.
Alien monster called a Big Mama that just made exosuits for this weaker race that is just technologically advanced and strong because of the technology, but they're weak and squishy on the inside. Kind of thing.
And so I added in this page, because it's one, great visual storytelling, great foreshadowing. Vamola's sort of mama, the one she calls Mama, who's kind of her like main attachment here. They all kind of are getting wiped out. Obviously, these aliens are much more stronger than the grannies, unfortunately. She's laying here looking at this Godzilla mech, which is the mech that we first see Vamola in when she shows up in DanDaDan, 35 chapters or 40 chapters ago, however long it was. But this mech is revealed. I like the mirroring in these middle panels of sort of the mech face and the granny face, and it's sort of like, okay, you know what's coming. Here's some of this. Here's some of these designs. I think top right. This is the Big Mama, maybe.
Yeah.
But Vamola. Like, and then these are these mechs are ones that are fighting this Gravity One Tentacles lady. The visuals in DanDaDan, if you're listening to us in podcast, I won't always do this because I do think podcasts should be able to fully be listened to. And I don't like when the podcasts I listen to are like, oh, look at this picture, and they don't describe it or whatever. For DanDaDan, man, you have to go read it because it is so visually interesting, visually cool. The paneling, the flow, the art, everything is so interesting. Go check out the video on YouTube. That's on WGB Weekly Manga Podcast, so go check that out because, man, these pages right here are just sick. It's just framing Vamola in the center with all of the sort of bad aliens around her. Seeing her kind of like imminent death, it flashes back to just with the grannies, her saying "mama," and then the final page, which is like, God damn, it's so good. Can you see this? I hope on screen.
Yeah, it is. Okay. It is so fucking cool. And I'll just shout out the chapter in case you guys want to go read it on your
flip through it or
whatever. It's 104. Go check it out. Yeah, it is so fucking tight. And you know, DanDaDan kind of did what we complained about last week, where you kind of put a climactic flashback at the crux of, a flashback during the climax or during a pivotal scene. And the thing is, it just does it well. It's just written so fucking well. And
the difference,
Oda does this shit too, but yeah, I guess the writer is the difference, right?
Well, the writer is, first of all, yes, it does work better. The second thing, this is a good call out because this is, I didn't pay attention to this, but as soon as you mentioned it, I can kind of connect the dots of why this is better. Vamola's flashback does not occur at a true climax of the fight they are involved in, right? They're within scenes and stories and arcs and everything. There is a natural like up and down flow to the story of sort of energy, you can say. When things are low, you're sort of building potential energy. You're setting up action, or you're setting up character, or you're setting up plot. And then when energy is high, you are paying those things off. You're in a fight scene, you're in a character confrontation, you're doing stuff like that. And even within a fight scene, you'll notice even in this chapter, right? In this chapter, we start sort of with a lot of potential energy in the scene because they're about to go in. Things are low as they kind of sneak in, and then a guy runs away. Energy spikes. We're now at a higher energy point. And when you do something like Vamola getting surrounded and getting attacked, this is interesting because it's sort of, it could be high or low energy, right? You could go from, this is, things are about to explode. The energy is about to come down on Vamola in a bad way in this scene, but in the middle of that, we do kind of stop and get a flashback, and she says, "Mama," and then it's like, okay, we're either going to end with that, and we're going to kind of low energy coast out of the scene, and you're going to feel sad about what's about to happen, or the attacks unleash, we're sort of back on a higher energy thing. So it leaves things mysterious, and it turns out we end with high energy, right? We turns out that foreshadowing page that I mentioned earlier, her mama got into the mech and comes in and punches and is about to wreak havoc. But when this whole flashback occurs during DanDaDan, what would have been 101 or maybe 100 when this started? That doesn't occur at a high energy or climax of the scene in the way that who did we call out last week for messing that up?
It was Monster 8.
Yes, Monster 8. Yeah, the way Monster 8 or Demon Slayer, Kimetsu no Yaiba, they are literally breaking away from the climax of like the action. The way that DanDaDan does it, it's during a low moment where sort of like everyone is kind of reeling from being defeated. Yeah. Right, they're sort of reeling from being defeated, and so it is technically a low energy, like so a low. You could kind of classify it as like kinetic or potential energy. If you remember physics, kinetic energy is like active energy being produced, and potential is like stored energy that's able to be converted to kinetic later. So, whenever everyone's kind of reeling from being defeated, that is more of a potential energy time where there's action isn't actively happening. Cutting away from the action actively happening is bad. It is better to cut away from a scene whenever there is a break. And I even think stuff like the big offender for me is Demon Slayer, where literally the blade is going through the guy's neck and you get a flashback, and that's like so lame. Yeah. I mean, literally, if you do that flashback before the blade swings, it's better. It's maybe not perfect, but like it's an improved location to put that flashback
I
because
think that's still awful, and
it's still bad.
think
There's still
because
better
of what
places to put it, but
and we talked about this at length last week, so I won't go into it. But like, I think our issue last week was the conflict is already over in the story, right?
exactly.
And now there's a flashback. Here, it's the low point of the hero's journey, and the flashback kind of increases the stakes because the conflict isn't over. So yeah, totally get it. Either way, it's an amazing flashback.
For sure. The whole thing's amazing flashback. I'm gonna guess we get one more chapter of flashback Vamola. Yeah, we might come back to present either next chapter or the one after, because this is, I mean, what happens here. I'm gonna guess is that, you know, Mama sort of saves her, kills all the aliens. She gets the mech and the ship and goes and needs to find a power source, and she ends up on Earth, right? Like I think this Vamola is pretty closely removed from the one that we met and know fairly recently in the story. So
I think you're right, because she is in kind of distress and being chased, right? So it would make sense that this didn't happen too long ago.
Yep. Anyways, DanDaDan is sick. It's such a good series. Easily one of my favorite things to read every week. I'm so excited. It's so good. I just can't. It just works on all levels. And like, I remember us talking about it, maybe even like at the start of the podcast, like 6 or 8 months ago, about how the one thing I wish it had was that, like, I wish it had kind of like more of an overarching connecting plot. And in my opinion, this Vamola backstory connecting to a lot of the invaders we've seen and we're currently seeing sort of is that overarching plot that I really wanted. So, and that was literally like the one thing that I thought that DanDaDan was sort of missing for me to call it, like, I'm not going to say a perfect series, but like an S plus series, an exceptionally good series. And now that we have it, it's there. I'm
not sure this is overarching just yet, because we'd have to see if the alien issue gets resolved, or with these specific aliens gets resolved within this arc.
Right.
And I think it might, knowing DanDaDan. But either way, the series hasn't missed, right? Even without an overarching plot. So I have some faith here. I think the authors earned that.
This guy, I mean, it's Tatsu Yukinobu is the author here. This is super fun, such an easy read too. Like the action is super clear, the visual design is interesting. It's a good, simple story, which I really respect, and it's just executed so well. And we talked about recently, it's one of the best love stories kind of in manga right now.
Yeah, it's really good. It just hits on every level, in my opinion.
It does, yeah. I mean, it's everything about this is great. I literally no qualms with DanDaDan. And this chapter also was, visual storytelling, the visuals, the emotional weight of it is great.
I agree. And I think the author, this is my last thought on it, because I know we have more stuff to talk about, but the author does buy-ins really well. Like, I feel like if you do a flashback, you have to get the audience's buy-in again, because you're cutting away from the stuff they actually care about to do, here's what happened in the past, kind of a thing. And I think this, with the turbo grannies with the Master Chief outfits, that's like an instant buy-in for me, right? Like, I'm bought in, I'm invested already. Like, cool, cut away from the action for this shit. I feel like every series has to have that kind of buy-in. One Piece usually gets it within a chapter or two. This is like the fastest I've bought into a flashback, where I'm like, I'm okay with pausing our main action, and I'm here for the flashback, kind of a beat, you know what I mean?
Yeah. I think something else smart that he does, just to kind of go back to whenever this flashback started, is you cut away from a quote-unquote action scene with the characters, and the first scene that we see of the flashback is not a low energy, I was a child and my parents were yelling at me, like a lot of these flashbacks. Like, I'm thinking of Demon Slayer, right? Like, oh, I was a kid in an orphanage. It doesn't cut away from an action scene to give you a low energy sort of character thing. This cut from an action scene to an action scene. And so I think that flows really well. Also, I think that also keeps you buy-in. You go, okay. And it also keeps us connected to a character. Obviously, Vamola's there as a child, and she's drawn very cute. Drawing a cute character is pretty maybe the easiest way to get buy-in. Shout out to Anya from Spy Family.
Yeah, true.
But yeah,
all right,
excellent.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Looks like we have a lot to cover, so I'll do mine pretty quickly. Which is next? It's Aharen. We have talked about it a few times in the pod. This is the last chapter, guys.
Yeah, so this is Aharen-san wa Hakarenai, which is Aharen is hard to understand, or Aharen is incomprehensible, is the translation of it. Chapter, I believe this is 167. The author here is Asato Mizu.
And the last chapter, we got all the epilogue stuff out of the way, and this last chapter is just a reflection of the first chapter from Aharen's perspective, where she felt like an outsider.
Yep, and I grabbed a couple of panels from chapter 1, which we'll see. Yep.
And I think it's parallel. It's emotionally resonant. It parallels the first chapter so well, and I think it's also a firm case on why this couple in manga works. Because Raito, of course, as we know, is the biggest fucking weirdo in the series, not Aharen. He's the strange one here. And this is reflected in a less weird and more positive way from her perspective, you know? I think is just such an excellent ending to this manga. And I don't think it subverted any expectations, nor did it need to.
Nope. I mean, I think I agree with you on all fronts. This is super comfy, super heartfelt. All of the last, whatever it was, 5 or 6 chapters, which were all kind of flash forward stuff, were all great. I personally am a sucker for this kind of chapter 1, final chapter mirroring. Anytime you're sort of like, I had it planned this way the whole time, like that gets me. I've talked briefly about Attack on Titan does this with its ending and with a couple of things in the middle of it. There's the first chapter of Attack on Titan is called To You 2,000 Years From Now, and then there's like chapter like 120 is like To You 2,000 Years Ago or something like that. Anyways, yeah, I'm a super sucker for this, like, It's the first chapter again, but remember how it started, and it's still good. Yeah, and seeing this from Aharen's POV is good because you start the series and you think, oh, like, she's kind of weird, and she gets really close and awkward, and then, like you said, you don't realize that Raito, the male MC, is like, he's actually the weird one. Aharen's just kind of normal and soft-spoken, and seeing her kind of mental distress and unsureness here is great. And this is I believe this is kind of the maybe second or third to last page where Raito is like, here, you dropped your eraser. And then here's the shot from chapter 1, where from Raito's point of view. And he says, like, here, great. You dropped this. And anyways, yeah, it's Aharen-san is great. Super comfy. We got a season of this anime, right? This is like maybe a 3 season if they wanted to do it, but I don't know.
I'm actually not sure. I think so. Yeah, we did get an anime.
I'm pretty sure it was 2 or 3 seasons ago, but
if you guys decide to read this, I implore you to give it more than like 4 or 5 chapters, because in my opinion, it starts out pretty generic. Pretty much like all the other, hey, this girl's kind of strange, but I am her class member kind of thing. It starts like that, and then it goes off the deep end in the best way. So,
yeah, it's the
male MC is very unique and incredibly bizarre as a human being.
Yeah, we mentioned maybe every week the last 3 or 4 weeks where the stupid main characters are great, and these are like 2 idiots falling in love, which is kind of the thing. Yeah. So. Yeah, super good. Aharen-san's great. As always, like I always say this, but like looking forward to if this author does something else. I will be excited for it. I also don't. I have not read all of Aharen-san. I read maybe 20 or 30 chapters and then kind of picked it up off and on for the past year, and then read these last 6 or 7 chapters, the last volume. And it still hits. Like it's good writing to be like, yeah, I know that these two are like together throughout most of the series, and then to sort of end it with these flash forwards of where they are and how they're doing and blah blah blah. And yeah, and this last chapter, This is a really good end to a romance manga because it sort of lets all of the relationship stuff breathe and settle and resolve, and then it ends.
Yeah, I would agree. And it's kind of the story about like the most bizarrely supportive partner in the universe, where like the male MC will see Aharen being like down or sad or something like that. And instead of thinking it's like, oh, maybe she's just not feeling well, maybe it's an insecurity, he's like, maybe she's clearly buying up all the property in the area and decided to be a real estate conglomerate, and just change the property values in this area. Like, he goes on a bizarre delusion that he just created in his mind over what the issue is.
Yeah.
And then he's like, I have to support her somehow in this. It is a million different situations like that.
Yeah, I mean, it's super great, super funny, super comfy, really easy read. Cool. Anything else about Aharen? Rest
Nope.
in peace.
Ripperoni, you did great.
Goodbye. All right, let's. Like we mentioned at the top of the show, it's Golden Week in Japan, or at least the last. Was it last week? It's the first week of May, I believe, is Golden Week. So I think it's actually this week is Golden Week, or on either side of last weekend. So no weekly Shonen Jump was published. We got a couple of Jump Plus stuff. We got DanDaDan, but we didn't get Chainsaw Man yesterday or anything like that. So since those authors are all taking a break, we're also going to take a break of doing sort of a main focus on stuff that was published, and we're just going to give some advice of some things that you should read. If there's not a lot being published this week, go back and read and catch up on something else. So Gautam and I have both picked 5 things that we think you should read. Mine I wrote down, and then I looked at them and I go, wow, those have a theme. So my list I called it's either Oops All Fantasy or Oops All Monthly, because I think everything I have here is, yes, every single thing I listed here is monthly, and all of them are fantasy. One of them, they're all fantasy of some kind. 3 of them are legit classic high fantasy, and the other 2 are more modern fantasy. But yeah, I don't know if you found a through line to all of yours or not, Gautam. But
yeah. So I was actually debating, like when you told me to pick 5, I was like, let's make the theme gold. Let's have this all relate to gold. But
gold,
then
okay.
I was like, I can only think of 3 things, and 2 of them are done
For Golden Week. Yeah.
And then I realized how little of a theme I have across all of mine. So my theme is having no theme whatsoever.
The theme is no theme. The classic cop-out. I will start here and we'll sort of alternate. My first one is one that I have brought up 2 times maybe since the start of the year, and it's The Witch and the Beast by Kosuke Satake. This series rocks, and I cannot stress enough how cool and interesting this sort of adult dark fantasy stuff is, with like really good art. And I mentioned it's got like actual hand-drawn backgrounds, really cool setting, really interesting. It isn't even a magic system, it's like just really cool, interesting, soft magic. The 2 lead characters are awesome, especially the girl. This is just like a super well-written series, super well-drawn, very mature, but not in the sort of like sex and violence mature way, but just sort of in like a subtle, good writing. The Witch and the Beast. Everyone should be reading this. It is a monthly series, as I mentioned. I think everything I brought is monthly because one of my things is because monthlies are a lot harder to sort of keep track of and get people hyped for. I think a lot less people read them over here in the West. So. It's great. Read it. This is my number 5 for recommendations.
Did you figure out which one the witch and which one the beast was yet?
The girl is definitely the beast. The guy is not the witch. He might be the witch. The witch is their sort of quest goal, is to find a witch. She's got this like curse on her and she's trying to remove it. You can remove it by killing the witch who put it on you, or by having another, like you get like a witch's kiss, which is like literally you kiss the witch and it like removes the curse for a time. So
okay,
yeah,
that's interesting. Yeah, I love the art too. So
The art is super good. Character design also
this one's
exceptional.
on my list, even more than Trojan X. This seems to strike what I like more.
Yeah, this is. I mean, so the type of readers I would recommend this to. I think if you like Berserk, or if you like vampire stories, or if you grew up on Harry Potter and use that to transition into more modern adult fantasy, I think this is like exactly up your alley, which I'm kind of all of those people, right? I love Berserk. I love adult fantasy. I grew up on Harry Potter. And this kind of itches all those things. It's got magic. It's got, like I said, it's sort of dark high fantasy stuff. But yeah, this is a big recommendation. So go and seek this out.
Oh yeah.
Cool. And your number 5, you've brought.
Yeah, this is called Tear Moon Empire, and
I've not heard of this.
Yeah, it's kind of underread, in my opinion, considering I feel like it is one of the best in its genre at what it does. By the way, just to preface, my list is not what I thought were the best of the best this year. It's just what I thought are really good, and you guys haven't read.
Yeah, these lists. These lists are not. These lists are not necessarily top 5s. These are just, you should be reading this, and a lot of the stuff that we talk about weekly, I also think you should be reading. But these are things maybe that we don't get to hit on as often in my case, or don't have a chance to come up. So yeah, so this is Tear Moon Empire. I'm gonna find the author real quick. Okay, the light novel series is written by Nozomu Mochizuki. Manga adaptation illustrated by Mizo Morino. Okay, cool.
Yeah, so here's the appeal of Tear Moon Empire and what it's kind of about. It sounds like a historical thing, but it's not. Basically, the princess of the Tear Moon Empire was just such a horrible person and made all the wrong decisions. She was selfish and awful, and she got guillotined. So, but she got reborn into her past self, just like all these villainous stories. She got
villainous story. Okay.
But it's not really an isekai. It's still her. And I think the good part about this is that she makes a bunch of decisions to avoid the guillotine, but she does such a shitty job at them, but somehow still fails upwards in the best way. This is a story about someone who hasn't learned from their mistakes, is still kind of a selfish idiot, and fails upwards by surrounding herself. Like, the only thing she did learn is to be more empathetic and surround her to one person, and to surround herself with the people who hated her in her past life on accident. So it is 100% a story about an idiot failing upwards and doing things better by pure accident and coincidence. And it's the best at what it does. I very much like that. Unlike these other stories, the main character is still kind of a moron. Is still kind of selfish.
Stupid main characters again. There they are.
Yeah, exactly. She didn't really learn much. She's just failing in a good way this time. So check it out. It is not frustrating to read. It like some of these, it's just very fun.
Yeah,
and I think it's drastically underread for this genre, considering there are a lot like it that are more popular that do things way worse.
Yeah, I mean, I haven't even heard of this, and I'm, I'm all over places posting manga and talking about them, so this is interesting. And well, villainous stories also aren't really my jam, but I'll check out one of them one of these days. Either this one or one of the others you suggested.
It is a comedy first and foremost.
Gotcha.
Even though it doesn't sound like it based on the title. Yeah.
I mean, anything with an idiot main character can be funny and comedic.
Yeah.
So. Cool. Next on my list is monthly. Nope, you're going next for some reason. Again.
Oh, I'm going next. Yeah.
Order of pictures fucked up. So.
No, it's all good. It's Witch Watch. Speaking of witches, this one I think is I'm a huge fan of comedy. I guess as you can tell from my list. But Witch Watch I think is probably the most creative comedy. Even if it's not the funniest one at all times.
Would you say it's like fun. The Sakamoto days of comedy? Because they're published very similar time frames?
Honestly, Sakamoto days is very...
I'm comparing the creativity of the fight scenes of Sakamoto days to the creativity of the humor in Witch Watch.
The fight scenes, Sakamoto days is like prop-based comedy, right? Whereas Witch Watch is experimental comedy. is what it feels like.
Gotcha.
They're both amazing, but like I feel like the Sakamoto Days appeal is like the different ways they fight and how goofy and how fun they are. Witch Watch is like experimental forms of comedy. It's like using every single different type of comedy like for different chapters. And magic is kind of the onus behind the comedy. You know, it's like it's just a different tool to be funny in a different way. And every chapter is kind of different in the types of jokes they tell. I don't know. It's just incredibly creative. I do like that the volume cover has that crucified lion man on the bottom right that we talked about.
Yeah, we talked about this a month or so ago with chapter 100, I think. Or was it 102? Yeah, 100 or 102 with...
the manga within the manga.
Yeah, manga within a manga. It's got... What was his name?
I'm forgetting.
I can't remember. It was some goofy name, but yeah, he shows up here.
It's like Doug or something like that. It's a very American... Zach. His name is Zach.
Zach, yeah.
Yeah.
But yeah, I mean, the chapters I've read of this are really good. I'm going to get back to this eventually because I do kind of want to catch up on it and read it. Because you're right that the sort of like, in the first, I don't know, I read maybe the first 8 or 10 chapters, and it's like, she casts a spell and becomes paper and blows away in the wind, and that's the gag. And it's constantly stuff like that in Witch Watch, which is like comedy, kind of like Mary Poppins. Yeah, just very sort of like, I will use this magic spell to overcome the situation, and it's like, but I'm stupid, and that magic spell was not the right one to use. Like, that's kind of the seems to be the repetition thing there.
And yeah, there was one where they used like teleporting magic, right? And a character has to do 2 jobs at once, classic hijinks. Mm-hmm. And one is at a funeral, and one is at a wedding. And he plays the funeral video of the old man saying, "It's like, I love my time here, but with my wife gone, I'm happy to see her on the like a very." He plays that at the wedding, and then he plays the comedian, like the comedian video, the groom's favorite comedian at the funeral, and they both end up being huge hits. Everyone at the wedding was emotionally like they teared up. They loved the old man's speech, and the people at the funeral are like, "I'm so glad we could just laugh together again." You know, it's like, it's just I love that chapter. It's just an example, but it's like a different vibe every single chapter. You can never kind of guess where this one's gonna go every week. It's just great.
I like that. Anyway. Yeah, I would say it's a sort of on the opposite comedy spectrum of something like Aharen, where the joke is kind of, I don't want to say it's the same every week, but it's the same structured. Gag, right? It's the same structured gag every week, even though it's slightly different, funnier, less funnier. But yeah, Witch Watch is more like, you're right. It's just doing a lot of different types of comedy, different types of thing. I mean, the sort of switch situation thing you're talking about, the magic hijinks, the random just manga within a manga thing for the 100th chapter, stuff like that. So it super creative. The fact that it stuck around this long in WSJ as just sort of a regular kind of shonen comedy, I think speaks to how good it actually is.
And yeah, you're right. And I think like the one gag system is never bad. I mean, sorry, that's an extreme statement. It's not bad to do the one gag system. But
if you're good at it, stick to what you know.
This guy's like insane because it's just a different gag, different type of gag every time. You can tell they try really hard.
Yeah. I wonder if this guy reads. I bet he reads all of the sort of like one gag manga and is like, oh, I can do that for one chapter, and does it for one chapter and then reads the next one. You know, he reads, I don't know, Aharen and then Komi, which is like kind of a single gag type thing. And
he was the apprentice of the guy who made Gintama.
Okay, that actually lines up a lot now that you say that.
And he had a hugely successful manga called Sket Dance as well. Which
isn't your cat named after a Sket Dance character?
I named my cat Switch when I was reading Sket Dance, and I got my kitty. Everyone thinks he's named after the Nintendo Switch. I hate that, but that's a sacrifice you make from naming your pets. But yeah. Either way, good series. Read Witch Watch. If you like it, go read Gintama or Sket Dance.
Awesome, cool. Back to monthly fantasy series. Nope, it's you again. Why did I mess up the order of all of these?
It's Scrimmy. Why don't you go to one of yours?
Oh, because it's a WebP. No, because hold on. I saved one of these images as a WebP, and WebP don't show up in. All right, you're gonna get this in my video editing or my picture editing thing instead. So yeah.
That is a cool cover.
Yes, this is Chojin X by Sui Ishida. Wait, do I have two WebPs? Oh, I did. Let's hold on.
You did. You're number.
I did. I double skipped. Okay, before. I'll do two of mine in a row. This is Dungeon Meshi. This is Delicious in Dungeon by Ryoko Kui. This is another straight high fantasy series, monthly published. That's my theme. This one is about to end. My guess is we've got less than 6 chapters left until this ends. This is... This is one of the most surprisingly good manga I have ever read, because the first couple of chapters were just okay. They were certainly good, and I think that the author here, artist and author, the mangaka, their visual design and character design is some of the best in the biz, even though their art is incredibly simple. They also have like a super deep knowledge of like classical kind of Dungeons and Dragons fantasy. This is like, I don't want to say like clearly they've played Dungeons and Dragons, but like clearly they were sort of in tune with the sort of high fantasy tropes. But they play with all of them. And once you get, I'm trying to remember how many chapters. It took me, I think it was like around 12 or 14 chapters in. This whole series kind of takes, I'm not going to be like, oh, it takes a darker turn and then it's way better. But it's sort of stops being a weird kind of like recipe, like fantasy recipe gag manga, and it starts just being this like high fantasy story that occasionally will have them eat, eggs and give you a weird recipe for it. But I definitely think that the hook is there. I don't know. This is just like, when we talk about stuff like One Piece being simple storytelling, sort of at its like well-executed simple storytelling at its best. This is the kind of series that Dungeon Meshi, Delicious in Dungeon is it's simple storytelling with these deep, sort of flawed, nuanced characters that are incredibly designed in a kind of detailed world with this world building that's really interesting of why dungeons exist and kind of what the elves are, and they live long, and half elves, and there's halflings and dragons, and there's all this, and dwarves and ogres. There's all this kind of classic fantasy stuff, and none of it is exactly like you've seen before. It is all a little bit different. It isn't just, oh, the elves are, super, pompous and magical. It's like, well, they are pompous and magical, but, there's another layer to it. The halflings, are, I don't know, I don't want to go into every single detail because I think you absolutely should go and read this. It is available in the West. There is an anime coming by Trigger, which is going to absolutely fucking rock.
That's a slap. I'm definitely going to watch that.
I think I will too, because I want to experience the sort of turn again, the turn from haha goofy egg recipes every week to, oh, you're like seeing a flashback of a destroyed world that created the dungeon and who the dungeon master is and why that matters and how that's going to go about saving the main character's sister and all this stuff. Bonus shout out for Dungeon Meshi here. The author oftentimes in the like bonus content of the volumes will do these character visual artistic explorations of, so they would say like, hey, the main character Lias, he's a human. What would his character look like as an elf, as a half elf, as a halfling, as a dwarf, as an ogre? And she like draws all of these, right? And she'll do that for like all the main characters. And then she'll say, okay, what if the main characters existed in modern times? Or what about the 80s? And she'll do sort of creative character costume design type things. Very much kind of a, like you might call it like a practice, but what it really is to me is it's like an artistic exercise from this author And putting it on display, I think, is really cool because that's the kind of thing that I think a lot of authors, artists, those type of people don't get time to do once they start manga. They don't get to sort of explore, well, what would my character be like if they were alive in the 1870s? What kind of clothes would they wear? Because doing those kind of exercises with your characters, with your art, with your design, those are super useful. And you can see, in my opinion, this author's mastery over those type of character things because she does those exercises and publishes them. In fact, I think there's 2 whole art books of Dungeon Meshi that are literally just her doing those kind of exercises. And I
sent you a screenshot of one of them a few minutes ago.
Yeah.
Pull it up real quick. It's just a good example of what you're talking about.
Okay, yeah, let me get it up. Yeah, for sure. Yeah, this is exactly what I was talking about here. This is these are not the main characters, but this is some of the sort of like secondary characters. But yeah, it's like they're are these all humans on the left? Yeah, I think this slab bottom one is an elf. I don't remember the second to last one. But yeah, this is like the left side is them as humans. Second from the left is elves. Middle is halflings. Right is dwarfs. And there's another race that I'm forgetting, right?
Yeah.
Which I don't remember the name of. But
I'm forgetting. I think very right is half elves because they're semi-pointy ears.
Yeah, that might be right. Yeah. Halflings, dwarves, half elves. I think that makes sense. Yep. Cool. But yeah, exactly. Yeah, this is exactly the kind of thing that like this author, these are the types of exercises that artists can do that will just make their character design, them understanding their own characters better. This shows like, okay, what's like, let's take a look at the redheaded girl in the middle. Like, what's core to this girl's character design? If you just saw on the left, you'd be like, oh, well, she's pretty. She's got the red hair and everything. And then it's like, okay, but when you sort of change the race that she is, change the pieces around her, it's like, okay, but the red messy hair stays. Her kind of sultry eyes maybe change a little bit, but you're finding the key points of the character and latching onto them and knowing that you can give your character a design and a feel that persists through any kind of changes you might throw at them.
I think it's just like you already mentioned this, but just to reiterate, it's like such a strong character design exercise. Like if you look at the human column, it's like soft features. Second column, elves, sharp features, and then the very right is half elves, where they have a combination of soft and sharp features, right?
Right. Yeah.
I think it's just excellent work, and this would have been on my list too, Bruce, if I didn't see it on yours.
Totally. I mean, this is a great series. So
when I pitched it to you, like all those months ago, I described it as pure magic, and I feel that way about a handful of series. I think Dungeon Meshi just has that X factor, that unknown variable that makes it incredibly special.
Yep. And that's I think what I was trying to hit on is that X factor kind of, I think it shows up in chapter 1 and it kind of lurks below the surface. And then when you get about 12 or 14 chapters in, right, 2 volumes or so, it starts to really come out. But the first couple chapters are really just about sort of like getting to know the characters, setting up the world, the sort of races, the magic, the interaction, those sorts of things. And then once all of those are set up, the story really just is like, okay, now we're in it. Now that X factor is present. And man, the last like year, right, the last 12 or so chapters have just been like such a wild ride. I mean, this really feels like the most excellent Dungeons and Dragons campaign storytelling you could imagine, like with these players.
Yeah, easily. It is the closest and best D&D manga you'll ever read. So if that's what you're looking for, go get it, man.
For sure. Okay, I will follow this up with my other one, and then we'll be back on track. This is Chojin X by Sui Ishida. This is another monthly published manga. This is more modern fantasy. Sui Ishida, known primarily for Tokyo Ghoul, which is a big hit. 6 or 7. When did that first? 6 years ago, maybe 2014, 2015,
Man,
16.
I would agree. Yeah, that long ago, but it doesn't feel like that long ago.
Yeah, I mean, the anime, of course, rocketed it off. I've talked about this fairly recently, so I won't belabor the point too long. You can go find those episodes. I think they're month and a half old now. Yeah, this is, I think more people should be reading this because, and I will bring this up in my number 1 slot. This is my number 3 slot. A lot of authors who write pretty okay or pretty good series will come back again with another series, and less people read them, even though I feel like more people should be reading them, right? You should pick up fans from your first series, and when they come back with a new one, you should have all those fans and some new people willing to check it out. And I feel like Tokyo Ghoul was such a huge kind of, anime of the year type hit. Not that it necessarily had that quality, but it was kind of the thing that everyone was watching, everyone was reading. Its panels show up a lot on sort of like, what's your favorite spread? Suishida, I think, is a great artist. Lots of really interesting design things. Like, you can see clearly these covers are sick.
It was JJK before JJK. Yeah.
Yeah, exactly. And Chojin X is like super interesting, and it now is the perfect time to catch up because we sort of have just done a big time skip, which we've only got 1 chapter on. So if you want to catch up, it's maybe 40 chapters, maybe not even. But yeah, I mean, this is a weird one to talk specifically about what it does really well. It's just one of those things that's like, in my opinion, this is like far superior to Tokyo Ghoul, especially just kind of like from chapter 1. Like, I sat down and tried to read Tokyo Ghoul from chapter 1 and got, I don't know, 5 or 6 chapters in and was kind of like, like the action is really messy. I'm having a hard time keeping up with fight scenes, and there's a lot of them, and the main character's kind of whiny and lame at the start, and that's annoying. And Chojin X kind of like does all of those things way better. I think the action, it's not perfect now, but like it's a much improved. Visual design stuff is more unique. Tokyo Ghoul is maybe a little, I don't want to say bland, but it's a little kind of like, yes, magical powers in Tokyo, fighting demons or vampires. We've done this. I've talked about this, the Bleach problem, right? The Yu Hakusho / Bleach problem. Chojin X goes away from it far enough. It's like, are they in Tokyo? No. Are they in Japan? Yes. Is it modern day? Not really. It's like fantasy 1999. It's like a little bit of a period piece. This is just, it's hard to describe why this is so interesting if you haven't read it or seen it. But I can't recommend it enough because I think that if you like Tokyo Ghoul, or if you're kind of looking for the next, like you mentioned, kind of the next Jujutsu Kaisen type thing, I think it's Chojin X. And I think the second that this anime hits, if it's done well, hopefully, I know that Tokyo Ghoul fans were disappointed in the anime at a lot of moments. As soon as this one gets an anime, which I'm going to guess is coming within 2 years, maybe not even that long, this is going to blow up, and I'm here to say I told you so before it happens, because it's a great series. I think it's better than Tokyo Ghoul by, not even just by a little bit. Like, I could not read Tokyo Ghoul, and I like Chojin X a lot. So,
yeah, honestly, it seems like a good one. I personally like Tokyo Ghoul, so I think that also makes it.
I think if you like Tokyo Ghoul, I think you'll like this even more. Like, I just think it is better. Cool. Okay, so that's my number 3. So, okay, close the video editing. Close that. We're back. This is your number 3 or number 2 now? Where are we?
This is my number 3.
Okay, cool.
My last 2 honestly have that X factor. They're magical. But my number 3 is also very good. It's Mirako-chan. It had an anime, and I think a lot of the criticism for the anime being that there are gratuitous panty shots and fan service shots of Mirako are warranted, because why? Like, that is not the appeal here, right? Like, we don't need to see her panties, because the appeal is like the horror of it all. It is the best slice of life horror manga out there, and in its current state, it pivoted from her just seeing these freaky ghost nespers to her being in school with a freaky ghost type thingy. It's just a normal, like, model student. Like she's a model. She's like really beautiful. But to Mirako, she looks like a humanoid with just a huge octopus tentacle creature on instead of a head. And it is just great. It is slice of lifey. It is terrifying. it does so much well. So I feel like if you tried the anime and it wasn't your scene, give it another crack in manga form. I think it's just better.
I was reading something, I think, on this recently. I think it was someone started a thread that was like, oh, what anime or manga totally threw you off with the, fan service or whatever. And someone was like, oh, I watched the Mirko-chan anime, and it was like packed full of fan service. And I was like, I've read the first couple of chapters of Mirko-chan, and I don't remember that at all. And there were a lot of comments responding being like, oh yeah, that's in like chapter 1 only, and then it just stops and it moves on.
Effectively. Like her best friend still has some fan service, but there is not a lot of fan service in Mirko-chan, the manga.
And it's kind of, since we talked about DanDaDan, that's kind of one of those things where it's like the first chapter of DanDaDan kind of has a lot of fan service in it, and then there's like none at all after that. Like the first chapter has the female MC like stripped down to underwear for half the chapter, and that never happens again, and it's not a plot point ever, and there's like hardly any fan service in it. So I get it, Japan. Sometimes you feel like you have to hook people with panty shots, and the West is less tolerant of that. I don't know how Japan feels about it, but
like it works in stuff like Kill la Kill or something meant to be like gratuitous and ecchi and all that stuff. That's fine, but Mirko-chan has a completely different selling point, which
it's just like horror.
It takes you out of it with fan service.
The appeal of Mirko-chan, I think, to me and I think a lot of people is the sort of juxtaposition of cute, high school, whatever, cute girl, and then like absolute grotesque, terrifying demons. They're kind of, you'll go through a chapter that's like, mostly normal. This is just kind of a slice of life. And then it's like, boom, terrifying Junji Ito shit, on screen, on the page, and playing those against each other, and Mirko trying to deal with like, I'm just going to ignore you, or I'm just going to school or whatever. It's a super interesting series. I need to catch up on it because I think I would like this a lot if I finished reading it.
It stays good. So I think you'd like it too.
Cool.
But yeah, that's what I got on Mirko-chan.
Awesome. I fucked up another picture thing, so I have to open this in my photo editor again.
Sure. Bro.
So yeah, you're looking at yes. So again, keeping in theme, we again have high fantasy and a monthly published series. This is Witch Hat Atelier by Kamome Shirahama. This is, you're up to date on this also, right? You're still reading this?
I am. Yeah, it's very good.
I mentioned earlier that if you grew up or you read and like Harry Potter, you should check out Witch and the Beast. If you're like a, what do the Harry Potter fans call themselves? Do they have like a name?
Potterheads.
Are they? Is it really Potterheads? That sounds right, but it also sounds stupid.
I think
so. It's probably right.
Is.
No shame. If you're a Potterhead and you like Harry Potter, this is your series, and this is like 17,000 times better than Harry Potter's writing. Witch Hat Atelier is about a bunch of girls learning magic. Magic is tied to art. The art is gorgeous. Shirahama here is the best panelist I think ever in comics I've ever seen. Her paneling is insane. And that's not just like, she draws very good panels. No, the way she like frames a page and uses the boxes on a page for transitions and tying visuals together. It's really hard to even talk about without showing you some examples. I'm going to do a video on this someday because this is something I think is just really cool and really tied to kind of a visual. A video essay would do really good things to talk about it. Easily. I think Western comics and manga. Shirahama's Witch Hat Atelier is the best paneled thing I have ever read. The art is gorgeous. The storytelling is, again, this kind of nuanced and mature story, but not mature in this like sexual and violent way, but mature in handling the relationship between children and adults, and two-way streets of trust between them, and these power dynamics between ruling classes and banning of certain streams of thought and people rebelling against that. And, is it right to control this magical power? Is it right to not expose it to everybody? Just some of the best writing in manga right now, I would say. And awesome visuals. Not enough people read it. I need to go and reread this because it's monthly published things. It's easy to sort of lose the thread of where you're going. And I caught up on this maybe 6 months ago or so. So, yeah, I cannot sing the praises enough of Shirahama and Witch Hat Atelier. It's so good. I believe this has an official Western release, so you can go and buy volumes of this, which I highly encourage you to do because the visuals are, again, like the real selling point here. It's all amazing.
I completely agree. It's fucking phenomenal. And to add to all that, it is a very cute coming of age story.
Yeah, it is. It has some cute things in it. I think this gets really dark though. So this is not.
I just like the MC though. I relate.
It is their cute drawn girls. I will say the appeal is there. I wouldn't give this to anyone under, I don't know, 13 or 14, maybe. If you need recommendations for children, I don't know why. Maybe children listen to the podcast. Who knows? I hope not. We say fucking stuff.
If you're a child, go watch Little Witch Academia instead. That's a really cute one.
Yes. I mean, that's a good call out. If you like Little Witch Academia, this is kind of less goofy, more serious, but same vibes here. Again, my theme is sort of fantasy and monthly, and Witch Hat, as far as fantasy goes, is just exceptional. So,
hey, you want to know what? We have a joint theme, kind of, talking about witches a lot.
Are there a lot of
manga? Yeah.
Tear Moon Empire, there's some magic in there. I mean, Witch Watch.
But having
Mirko-chan there's some magic in Mirko-chan, right? She can see the undead. Your next one doesn't have much magic in it, but
it's a different kind of magic, huh?
It is a different kind. It is the magic of family and joke. So let's talk about your next one then, because that's going to pop up.
But it is bizarre that out of our 10 choices, we have 3 with the word witch in them. This might have been a good Halloween list, honestly.
Do we have 3? Yeah, Witch and the Beast, Witch Hat Atelier, Witch Watch.
Witch Watch, Mirko's Halloween. Yeah, anyway, Yotsuba, it's ongoing. It releases when it releases. It is fucking magical. I absolutely adore it. It is purely slice of life comedy. And I will say, if you're feeling down, if you're not feeling great that day for any reason, why don't you just go relax and read some Yotsuba? I assure you it'll improve your mood by whatever degree. At least it does for me. I think in terms of slice of life, it's not really my genre, but this is perfection. I want to be in this slice of life. I don't want to be in it. I'm just happy watching it or reading it. Yotsuba's just a rambunctious little girl being raised by a single dad, and that is the plot. She gets into hijinks, and I think the one of the appeals of Yotsuba, unlike other manga with little kids being cute, is that Yotsuba acts the most like a little kid.
Yeah,
in terms of they're not like adults, or mature in any way. She's just a rambunctious, rowdy little girl who gets into mischief, who does nice things, who does stupid things.
I was about to say, this is in keeping with another theme that we talk about often, which is we love stupid main characters. Yotsuba is pretty stupid, but like the appropriate amount of stupid for, what is she, like 6 or whatever? So.
Yeah, she's like 5 or something like that.
Yeah, like pretty young, but like very stupid, but like appropriately stupid for her age. But it's in an earnest and honest way. I've read a couple of chapters of this, but not a whole lot of it. But yeah, and this is, like you said, this is like a perfect, like just sort of feel good, laugh. Like even when things go wrong, but it isn't that bad. It's just feels good, looks cute. Positive vibes, goofy fun. Yeah. Yotsubato is the name of the series. I think which is Yotsuba and.
Exactly. It's
this is by Kiyohiko Azuma is the author there. So yeah, Yotsubato is a lot of people read this. This is a very popular series in Japan.
And it should be more popular in the West, in my opinion.
Yeah.
it's 4chan's mascot, the only property they won't shit on or touch in a bad way. You know, it's like everything is fair game. But back when I was an edgy teen posting on that website, Yotsuba was kind of the sacred cow of all of it. And also, the author made Azumanga Daioh. Which was,
okay. Yep.
Yeah, huge back in the day. It was one of the progenitors of slice of life.
Absolutely, yeah. One of the sort of original, really big, popular slice of life anime for sure. Azumanga Daioh, yep.
Yeah, so if you want to read slice of life perfection, and no, I'm not overselling it, read Yotsuba.
Awesome. We're on to our sort of number one pick. It looks like we both put our biggest and best thing last. I know I did. I think you did.
No, mine is small. Not really me.
Yeah, I mean, not a whole lot of people read yours, so we might need to get a couple more reading it before we can even have a conversation. But
sure.
My pick here is, I've talked about, if you've listened for more than a month or two, you've heard me talk about this. This is Yomi no Tsugai by Hiromu Arakawa. This is the author of Full Metal Alchemist. She's awesome, and Silver Spoon, which is maybe actually the best slice of life ever written.
Okay, yeah, goddamn, that's also perfect.
I didn't. This is a coincidence, but I'm repping. Wait, where did I put on the camera? I'm like repping my
hell yeah.
Full Metal Alchemist shirt here.
Full Metal Alchemist.
Full Metal Alchemist. Anyways, this saying that more people should be reading this to me, I've legitimately yelled, I think, on this podcast about how angry I am that there's not more people reading this. Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood is still the number one rated anime on Mal. And it is so coveted and protected or maybe just accepted as such a quality story that has all of the magic, all of the character, all of the plot, all of the momentum, all of the writing and design and everything going for it. It's exceptional. And I will say I'm not one of the people who goes and downvotes other things when they pass Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, nor am I someone who goes and upvotes it. I believe I do have it rated as a 10 on Mal. I would absolutely rate the original Full Metal Alchemist that high. I would rate Silver Spoon that high. I think Yomi no Tsugai, I would also rate that high. This series fucking rocks. It's so good. It's just so good. She just has such mastery over characters and interesting decisions, and her world building is also I know that we talk about, I've talked about world building in almost all of my picks because it's a super cool thing that I think speaks to a good writer when you can develop a world in addition to characters and plot. Those three things together can just make or break a story. And man, something about, and anyone who's seen Full Metal Alchemist or Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood can attest to this. In 60, 70, 80 episodes, or I guess if you watched all of Full Metal Alchemist and Brotherhood, it's maybe about 100 episodes. Think about all of the world building that's done in that and how dense it is, right? And if you read Full Metal Alchemist, I think it's maybe around 100 chapters, maybe it's 110. The amount of world building that Arakawa can fit into that is insane to me. And that is true of Yomi no Tsugai. Also, this has an English name. It's called Daemons of the Shadow Realm. It's fucking stupid. We're not going to mention it. It's called Yomi no Tsugai. That name is stupid because it misses out on the entire twin subtext dynamic in this series. This is, her paneling is awesome. Her character design is top of the game. Her art is simple. But I think she is exceptional for it. I cannot. Yeah, I have to. She is. I legitimately think she is my favorite manga author because I think she is the whole package and has proved to being the whole package in two separate, completely different stories. The only other people who I'd put on the same level would be, I think Oda is up there because he's done something that almost no one else has done with how long running and deep One Piece is. But Arakawa has done easily maybe the best shonen of all time. I think Full Metal Alchemist, I think there is a very good argument to be made for that, of being the best written, the best designed, the best world building, the best character writing in shonen ever. I mean, I'm having a hard time having anything get anywhere near it. And she's done a slice of life in Silver Spoon that is easily maybe the best slice of life ever written.
Yeah.
You're so good.
So fucking good. Yeah, I agree.
Yeah. So anyways, it's like the best working, one of, if not the best working manga artist. And when these chapters, I'm basing this mostly on like, they go up on Reddit, how many upvotes do they get? Most weekend stuff, like the Weekly Shonen Jump stuff, like, I'm trying to think. A couple chapters ago, Jujutsu Kaisen got like 6 or 8K upvotes, so that's kind of like a pretty big one. A lot of the popular stuff most weeks hits around like 2,000, 2 to 3,000, maybe 4 if it's a big week. But everything in sort of that like 1K to 2K range is the pretty well often read stuff on Reddit. The last chapter of this, I think, got like, I don't know, 250 upvotes. Like, embarrassing. Like, this is... I'm working myself up and getting angry again. Like, this is the author of fucking Full Metal Alchemist Brotherhood, and there's not thousands of people reading this every week and going, oh my gosh, it's so good, because it is. I'm angry. More people should read this. This is why this is top for me. It's one of the best working author, artist, mangaka ever. It's Full Metal Alchemist Part 2. It isn't Part 2, but it has the same... right... Arakawa,
all the same qualities, right?
Yes, Arakawa has not been back to her own designed and written shonen since Full Metal Alchemist finished, and it finished in like 2007, I want to say, maybe 2008 or 9. But yeah, it's been like almost 15 years since she's been back to her own original shonen story, which Full Metal Alchemist was, and Yomi no Sugai is. She also does Arslan Sinki. Arslan? Aslan's the lion from Lion Witch of the Wardrobe. Arslan. But she is not the author of that. She is just the artist, I believe.
I think it's also Arslan for the night thing.
Arslan is what...
It's the same name as the lion. I think that's also... Yeah, it's Arslan.
No, the lion is Aslan.
Oh, okay, never mind.
The manga is Arslan, I think. I believe that's right. If we're
You're
wrong...
right. That is correct. That is correct.
Roast me in the comments if we're wrong.
Okay.
But yeah, I'm so in love with Arakawa here, and her writing and her design and her world building. This is only, I'm trying to think how many chapters in we are here. Like maybe 20 chapters in total?
17. Yeah. So yeah.
17?
Like
Okay.
Very small amount. No, well, that was a guess too.
Oh, okay. Yeah, 20 or so chapters. And the amount of world building in those 20 chapters is like, I can tell you like an incredible amount about the world. And it's not like she's just info dumping like world building on you. She's like working it into a super interesting plot and very interesting characters. The lead character here, one of my favorite moments that's happened so far is he's sitting down at like a meeting with people who he thinks are like, they're not really the bad guys, but they might be against him. They've like kind of captured and held his sister, and he's trying to kind of feel him out. And they're like, hey, like, you should join us. And you're kind of thinking in your head from reading like, oh, these guys might be the good guys. Maybe they were kind of labeled incorrectly early on. And he just is straight up. He's just like, no, I will not be joining you. He like stabs the table. He's like one of the most proactive shonen protagonists I have ever seen, which is so refreshing because generally shonen male protagonists are filled with these, not wimpy, but these like sort of undecisive, these Deku types, right? Where they're just kind of like, oh, I want to do what's right and blah, blah, blah. This guy is like, I will kill you. Like, I will cut your throat. I will murder you to get to my sister. I am not joining you. I'm doing my own thing. He's like trained killer, aggressive. He does just look like Ed from Full Metal Alchemist. He's not. He's like a very different character. I could go on forever. Yomi no Sugai's so good. This should be getting, every time this shows up on Reddit, this should be getting 3,500 or more upvotes, and until it does, I will not rest. And I believe it will once an anime airs, and you can attach it to Full Metal Alchemist. I think after that happens, everyone will be here for it for a long time, but until that day, I will keep preaching from the mountaintops. Yomi no Sugai by Hiromu Arakawa. It's so good.
Funny you say that. I rewatched an episode of FMA, and like the first one, and Ed is so goddamn proactive throughout that whole series.
It really
But
is.
especially the first one, he's actually like not even technically in the right among like I don't know how to explain this, but in the first at the end of the first chapter, one of the side characters is having kind of a emotional and mental break because
like a religious crisis.
Yeah, religious crisis. Exactly.
A crisis of faith. There you go. Yeah.
And Ed tells her, "Well, pick yourself up and keep moving forward.
He's like,
you have two good legs, don't you?" Yep. And he doesn't, right? Like Ed is missing limbs, and that is like such a proactive. Like it talks about Ed as a character. It talks about the world. It talks about that setting for that arc, especially. It's just Arakawa weaves everything together so well, and
she just has a mastery of every single aspect of manga storytelling. That is, you're absolutely right. The first chapter of Full Metal Alchemist is what is it called, Lior?
Lior, yeah,
yeah, is like Lior, like the desert thing. If you read that chapter 1 and you're not like, you don't buy in, like, what's wrong with you? Shame on you. It's such a good boiled down, sort of reduced everything she's good at. It's like you said, it's like there are proactive main characters who know what their goal is. They pursue that goal. They have crises along the way. They're fights and stuff. It's so good. I read the first like 5 or 6 chapters, and there's a couple chapters later where they're just like on a train, and there's some action and paneling on that train thing that is so perfect. That's just like so perfect that even watching the anime is sort of like, oh, it's kind of like a normal anime thing, but anime and manga visuals are very different. Again, I won't go on any longer here. Read Yomi no Tsugai. When you read it, when it shows up on Reddit Manga, go and give it an upvote, so I'll shut up about it. That's my ask. This is the thing everyone should be reading, because virtually everyone in anime and manga has seen Full Metal Alchemist, except for some reason Gart from Trash Taste has still not watched it. Maybe someday. But I have my sneaking suspicions that he has seen it, and he just jokes like he hasn't because it's a fun joke, but who knows. Yeah, anyways, this will be the next big thing. The second anime hits, and when we get an anime, it'll be huge, because it's a great story. It's super. It's like, I mean, Full Metal Alchemist is kind of adult too once you get into it. It is very. Yeah, it is generally considered a like shonen seinen kind of 50-50 thing, kind of like Attack on Titan is. This is very similar. It's like there's violence, there's murder, there's death, there's stuff like that. So, okay, no more.
There's a shit ton of war crimes.
Yeah, there's a lot of war crimes in Full Metal Alchemist. There's a lot of, I mean, yeah, Full Metal Alchemist is kind of about like war and the fallout of war is very core to the
PTSD, human corruption.
Exactly, exactly.
And before we go on to our final one, which is my number one, I just want to say this list, of course, is stuff we think more people should read. You know, underrepresented things. More people should be reading this, and we just wanted to get that out of the way.
Yeah. So this is literally my. I see like I miss the chapters the day they show up, because not enough people upvote them on Reddit. Like that, this is my list of like, please upvote these so I can see them on my front page instead of buried a couple pages deep. This is what we're here for.
Yeah. So let's move on to my next one.
Cool. Yeah. A hidden known gem.
It's One Piece. It is. I mean it. More people should read it. Every single human being should read it. It's awesome.
From the angle we are approaching of more people should read the series, it needs more upvotes so that more people can see it. Like, sure, I'm behind it. One Piece is great. More people should read One Piece, especially in America, in the West.
Agreed. And in our notes, we have like this list labeled out. I put trumpets behind One Piece. I said, "One Piece, baby." Yeah, it is fucking phenomenal, man. How does it keep being so good?
It does show up. Yeah, I don't know. This is how he has it in our list, if it's on there. Somehow Notepad has the trumpet emote, which is absolutely wild. It's absolutely wild to me that it does, but yeah, it's there. Crazy, so
yeah. First of all, it has such phenomenal world building. Another series that I think just has the magic X factor. It does everything right. Characters, world building, fights, hype moments, pacing, it flashbacks, everything. It does everything fucking right. I'm not even gonna list them because there's no point. And currently, it's been going for so long, you might think, surely it's kind of lost a beat here or there, right? It's been going for... It hasn't. It's gotten better. You think One Piece has lost a beat?
No, it has indeed, I think, gotten better over time in general. It has a few missteps in the middle, I will say, is the one thing. But that's...
I'm not saying it's like perfect 10 out of 10 all throughout, but damn, if I don't feel like it is consistently amazing.
It's definitely one of those, like, you get to... There's a time skip in the middle of it, spoilers. You get to the time skip, and the arc right after that is sort of, like, pretty okay, and then it's like, Punk Hazard's the best arc. Oh, Dressrosa's actually the best arc. Whole
Cake is the best arc.
Whole Cake actually is this. As I was reading, this is what I was saying. Now I'll go back because Alabasta is my favorite because I think it's the first time that One Piece is like really solidly just on display all of the fundamentals that Oda has. But like easily the best written arc is like the next one, starting at Punk Hazard. Like Punk Hazard is probably the best arc up until that point. And then I think Dressrosa is probably better than Punk Hazard, and I think Whole Cake is better than those, and I think Wano is probably better than all of those, and this Egghead stuff has been really awesome. So yeah, it's
like exactly like you're saying. Like, how do you? It's like a bunch of 9.5s and 10s. It's like, how do you stack rank that, right? Without making something seem bad. You don't. They're just all fucking good. And I'll get back to this cover picture in a second, but at the moment, Oda has told such a large story. It's an odyssey, like we've always talked about.
An epic, an epic story for sure.
An epic, yeah. That's the word I was looking for. And it's all the plot points are converging, getting answered, and it is just phenomenal to be living in this time for One Piece alone. I that's not hyperbole. I truly means a lot to me. I love this series.
The best favor you've ever done for me. You've bought me tickets to movies and dinner and all this stuff. The best thing you ever did is you forced me to read 100 chapters of One Piece before the end of, is it 2019, I think? Or maybe 2018? No, it was 2019. And I seriously went to like December 26th before I started reading. I was like, man, I don't want to do this. I don't want to read One Piece. It's so long. Monkey D. Luffy is the stupidest name for a main character. And I remember like chapter 1, I was like, okay, this is pretty good. And then by the time I got to like, what is Nami's arc called?
Arlong Park.
Arlong Park. By the time I got to and through Arlong Park, there's the iconic scene of Luffy putting the hat on Nami's head and saying like, of course we'll help you. I got there and I was like, this fucking rocks. Like One Piece is so good. You may be thinking it's too long, or if you tried to watch the anime, especially when you were a child in the late 90s, early 2000s in America specifically, 4Kids has ruined your perception of what is, like we mentioned, what is one of the only modern like epic stories, one of the only epics in manga. There's like Kingdom maybe counts also, but One Piece is really good. We mentioned it maybe with with Dungeon Meshi, but Oda is one of those guys who has such a command of the parts of storytelling and art and executes them in such a simple, effective way that it is so hard for you to just like not like One Piece. He just knows how to tell a story, and he understands the building blocks that it takes, and he uses them and he executes them simply, and the complexities from his large world, his world building essentially, really comes as, I think I've mentioned this before maybe, but I think the best way to execute any kind of complex story is to have lots of simple things build on top of each other. And that's really where Oda, I think, excels, is that, you know, let's say that the admirals, right? The way the admirals work is not complex. The way the world government works is not really complex in by itself. You know, they're tied to the pirate warlords. Also, they're just a bunch of these really simple things, but when you start tying them all together of like, oh yeah, the admirals and the warlords don't like each other, and the world government employs the admirals of the navy, and the Navy the bad guys, but there's some good guys in the Revolutionary Army and all this stuff. There's all these little simplicities that you inherently understand because the story's been told an excellent way. And yeah, the biggest sin that ever happened was the 4Kids dub of One Piece. So wipe that from your mind, read the manga.
Peak fiction, brother.
It's very good.
It also, the main character, Luffy, is the perfect dumb protagonist. I love him. He has so much agency.
Yep.
But I think what really works is while he has all this agency and while he impacts the world of One Piece in a huge way, the world also moves without him. So even if the Straw Hats weren't there, you see all these actions going on, all these things changing, all conflicts, resolutions, like so much shit happens.
Yeah,
really,
it is a story. I mean, I'm trying to think of how to say this. You could pluck the Straw Hats out of the story and you could still tell One Piece. It could be about anyone else. There's lots of other people are questing for the One Piece. The pirates and the Navy would still come to a head. The revolutionaries would still exist. Like, it's, the world sort of exists and, like you're saying, moves on without the Straw Hats, but them being involved makes it better. And yeah, we've talked a lot about stupid protagonists, and Monkey D. Luffy is maybe my favorite idiot savant, like, of all time. And I think he is for a lot of people.
And I think this ties back around to what you said about proactivity. He is an idiot, but he's so incredibly proactive.
Yeah. And he's also, so the idiot savant is a character archetype where a character essentially is only really good at one thing and they're kind of bad or stupid at everything else, right? There might be a better phrase for it than idiot savant, but that's kind of the one that I've come to know. Luffy is he is an incredible leader, although his leadership qualities are not classic leadership qualities, and he's also an amazing fighter, one of the strongest fighters in, but he does that having a goofy, stupid power, and he's kind of bad at everything else. He just, like, forgets people's names. He, like, when I was specifically in Arlong Park, I remember Nami, like, tells her backstory for like 2 or 3 chapters, or maybe like 1 chapter. Luffy just falls asleep. He just doesn't care. He's just like, He literally sleeps through her backstory. Then he goes and fights for her, right? So
it's exactly like you said, but even a little bit cooler than that, because Nami's sister is telling them about Nami's trauma, her backstory, why she did what she did, all that stuff. Luffy just walks away because it doesn't matter to him, because he was there for his bud regardless. He doesn't need to hear the backstory. Yeah. So he still doesn't know what happened to Nami, because that's not the important part, right? It's being there for your friend. That was the important, and I thought it was so good.
He forgets characters' names. He purposely, like, names them stupid nicknames all the time. He's literally like an idiot, but he is a savant in that he has the singular goal. I mean, anyways, but as we mentioned every time One Piece comes up, we could talk about One Piece at length every week and probably not run out of things to talk about. So yeah, I mean, I agree. It belongs on this list. More people should be reading One Piece. It is easily one of the most fun, cool things. And hey, if you're worried about starting it, imagine have you ever liked something that it ended and you're really sad? The good thing is One Piece isn't ending anytime soon, and if you start it now, you'll have months and months of content to read to catch up. So,
and be there for this moment with us when it does end here in like 5 years or 6 years or whatever, because you don't want to miss that.
I do think, I would. I agree. I would advise you to start now and catch up, because if it is suddenly announced like, oh, One Piece ending this year, and you've got, maybe 6 months to catch up on 1,200 or 1,300 or 1,400 chapters, you might not make it. It took me, and I was a fast, dedicated reader, reading a lot of chapters every single day, and it took me 2 full months almost to read slightly under 1,000 chapters of One Piece. I think I caught up at like 960 or 970 or something. So,
and I'm sure Bruce will agree with this, but as a One Piece fan, we just want more.
Yeah, there's not enough One Piece.
Yeah,
you look at it, you go 1,000 episodes, 1,000 chapters. That's so much. It's like, no, there's not enough. I wish It's frustrating that it skips a week every month. I hate that. I'm glad that it helps the author, and I will not take that away from him. But I absolutely wish that it was published.
It is kind of a highlight.
3 times a week, every week.
I'll end by just I think we talked and did our perfect elevator pitch for One Piece. So take a look at this. For audio listeners, we're showing the cover, the volume cover of the manga, and it has the 4 emperors, basically the main players at the current moment of this series, which are Shanks, Bucky the Clown, Blackbeard, and Luffy. And then they are the major players right now, heavily featured in the manga at the moment too. Then there's fucking Carrot up here. What are you doing? What are you doing, Carrot? Why are you here?
What are you doing, Carrot?
Yeah, what the fuck? Are you furry baiting Oda? What's going on here? Why is Carrot here?
Hey, we like Carrot.
We like Carrot, but she's just like out of place in this cover.
I don't know. I feel like Oda. There's some characters that Oda obviously likes drawing. I think Carrot's one of them. Carrot has showed up on covers and on spreads like a lot more than she's actually appeared in the story, I feel like. So
yeah, I think so too. And she's a fun character. She's
fun,
really funny how out of place she is in this specific volume cover.
Yeah, this is, do we know what volume this is? This would be like volume 160, 180. I don't know how many volumes in One Piece are. There's a lot.
Sure. Yeah.
140 something. I don't know. There's a lot of volumes, but
yeah.
Cool. Well, anything else?
That's all I can say on One Piece. Yeah.
Yeah. Anything else on things you should be reading? Any honorable mentions or anything else there?
I have one, but that's in my one more thing. So
okay, cool.
We'll just move on to the next segment.
Yeah. My only honorable mentions would be most of the things we talk about every week are things that are really good. Sakamoto Days, Akane Banashi, things like that. So if you're looking for more manga recommendations, just keep listening to the podcast or go listen to some past ones. You'll figure out what you like by what we like. So yeah, let's talk about one more things. This is you sent me a screenshot of this earlier, and I found this cover, and this is going to be a good one.
Yeah, it's been popping off on our manga, which is how I found out about it. It's called Nick and Lever. You know how much I like shitposts. This is absolutely one of those. It is a comedy manga about 2 just American dudes living in Japan. Super high
speed bizarre comic is what this is labeled as. Yeah, this is the author here is Kyogoro Miyata. Nick and Lever.
The white dude on the right, he speaks like a Jersey boy, or he's like, "Hey, what are you doing here? Hey," and it's like portrayed in the manga, the type of guy that says "foist" instead of "first."
Right. The sort of Jersey accent, essentially.
And his best friend, the black guy on the left, is just kind of just as much of an idiot as he is, and it's just about them doing random shit. It is slapstick. It is bizarre. It's a complete shit post. I think the most recent chapter is he was playing like rock paper scissors with a crab, and then he makes fun of the crab for losing.
To give you an example of how much of a shitpost this is, what you're looking at on screen if you're watching us is the cover of Volume 1, and here is the cover of Volume 2. It is literally the same cover, but X-rayed. I think it is. I mean, it is literally the same cover, just drawn with an X-ray. And instead of a bull or a cow, there's a jaguar or a panther or something down here. But yeah,
I love that the sunglasses always stay on.
I'm gonna check this out. I think like as soon as this ends, because something about the page that you sent me and looking at this is like, I bet this is goofy and good.
It is goofy. It is like what Japanese people think American people are like.
Okay, great.
Typical American. It's like 2 of those guys just doing shit in Japan. It's very funny. Check it out.
Very cool. Cool. My one more thing. I had my first one was there was a new trailer for Armored Core 6 Fires of Rubicon, and so I was desperately like, I want to play an Armored Core game. I want to check it out. I want to see what it's like. I downloaded a emulator and tried to run some games that I own, of course. And it just wouldn't work because everything is bad. And Dolphin is amazing. I have so much more respect for them because Dolphin just works. And this PS3 emulator did not work. But what I've really been reading and enjoying here is something that you brought maybe a month ago, maybe three weeks or a month ago, which was Destroy All Humans, They Can't Be Regenerated, which is a manga written by Katsura Issei and illustrated by Takuma Yokota. Takuma Yokota also does the story of a dumb prefect and a girl of inappropriate skirt length. I believe that's the name of that.
Also a very fun manga.
Also very good. Yeah, equally as good as this one that I'm reading. But yeah, we discussed a couple weeks ago. Essentially, it's about two middle schoolers in the late 90s. I think it starts in 1998, who connect over playing Magic the Gathering, and they go through set releases and all this stuff. You'll see they're holding classic set there on this cover. But yeah, this is like the weirdest, strangest, but also like a super good love story. So
yeah, it's just about two dorks playing Magic the Gathering and falling in love. It's
sort of like
grounded.
Very sort of like, they're like number 1 and 2 in the school as far as grades, and they kind of like start out not liking each other and then connect, and now it's pretty quickly it's like, oh yeah, we obviously have a crush on each other. But yeah, this artist just has like super unique dynamic art, and this one I kind of enjoy the art more than the inappropriate skirt length one, because in this one they get to like draw magic cards and their characters like assuming the persona of some of these characters from Magic and doing attacks, and there's a lot more sort of dynamic, interesting art in this one. I will say there is a love triangle, or potentially more than one love triangle coming later, which I'm curious and tentative about. I think it will be resolved just fine. Yeah.
I usually hate love triangles, but I like this, and I think it resolves well.
Good. Yeah, I am not to the point where it has resolved yet, so but I'm looking forward to it. I think I'm maybe like 16 or 17 chapters in. There's like maybe 44 published. So yeah, I mean, Gautam talked about this a month ago. I'm talking about it now. Super good series. I'm going to keep reading it and catch all the way up on it before I start my next thing. So
hell yeah. Glad you're reading it. I really like it. I think it's charming and fun.
Yeah, super good. And I have played Magic, not a whole lot, but in college I was really into Magic with my friends. I played a little bit before then with my brother. Played a little bit after then. I sort of kept a deck around. So seeing some of the Magic cards that I know show up, because there's a lot of reprints and a lot of it's the same character but doing new stuff. Like Urza shows up in the latest set. Like there's still Urza cards printed this year, last year. But so yeah, really cool to watch that happening in Magic. So
absolutely. Well, nice. Hey, I'm glad you're enjoying it, man.
Yeah. Anything else you want to say this week before we close out the show here?
No. I guess in terms of Armored Core, I feel like it's insane that it's not on Steam. But yeah, that's the last thought on that. Not
a single Armored Core on Steam. None of them on Xbox Game Pass. So yeah.
Yeah, wild.
Well, everybody, thank you for listening or watching. Don't forget, if you are listening, check out the YouTube channels, White, Gray, Black, for curated manga content. And if you want to check out the VODs of our podcast, they are on that WGB Weekly Manga Podcast channel. Please give those a like and subscribe. That's the best way you can support us. Well, that's the second best way. The best way is you could go to Patreon and give us $1. $1 or $2 a month or something to help us keep doing this show, keep creating stuff, maybe buy some nicer gear, something like that. Don't forget, if you want to listen to us podcast while you're walking your dog or driving your car, we're on all the major podcast providers. That's about it. If you want to follow me on Twitter and tweet at something we should be reading or you want to talk about on the show, check me out at WGB Manga. That's about it. As always, thank you so much for being with us this week.
Goodbye.
And don't forget to read more manga.